In this video, we're gonna teach you how to wash your dirt scooter.
Oh, that got way dirtier than I thought it was.
What's up guys, Tyler Livesey from the MX Factory. Today, we're gonna teach you how to make your bike sparkly clean. We're gonna start with prep, we're gonna go into actually washing the bike, and then we'll talk about post-wash care, drying the bike, lubing, all that good stuff. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and thank you to our Patreons for being so supportive so far. You guys are helping us make more stuff. Tools needed for the job: foam brush, we've got our erase cleaning product, which we'll leave a link to their site, and then we also have our Brillo pad. Is it really called Brillo pad?
SOS, I thought.
It's called an SOS.
I'm not really sure.
So I'm using a pressure washer here that's fairly low power. It's an electric pressure washer. I do like using just the hose because what you'll find with the pressure washer is that if you get at a certain angle and get too close to your bike, it tends to either peel the graphics off or maybe jump into a seal that you don't want it to get into. So make sure if you got a really high powered pressure washer and that's what you're using, make sure you're at a reasonable distance that you know you're not gonna, mess anything up by spraying the bike. Starting top to bottom on this one, we're just gonna knock all this mud off to get going. I like to start with the bars and then move down. Another thing I like to think about, when you live in places that have real clay-based dirt, if you let it dry and it gets hardened on there, it doesn't necessarily come off on your first spray. A nice thing to do is come out, soak the bike down, get that dirt wet again, maybe take a 5-minute interval, go get some water, and then come back in. That dirt will fly off a lot easier than it would if you just put the pressure on it. You'll be there a lot longer doing it that way. Another thing to think about here is when you're getting around close to your fork seals, you don't want to get the pressure washer or any high-powered equipment pointed up into those seals, because if you do have dirt or any miscellaneous crud on your forks, so you're now pressure washing those up into your seals, which is going to create a little more vulnerability to starting to have an oil leak. When you're getting to the part of the bike that needs air to function, to keep your bike cool and running right, you want to make sure you take a little extra time to get all the fins of the radiator cleaned out. And what a lot of people make the mistake of doing is they only spray from one side. Yeah, you need to get all the dirt from out here, but you want to spend a little more time getting on this inside. It does help if you take the shrouds off. These little fins in the radiator are definitely one thing that you could mess up if you hold the pressure washer really close and it has a lot of power, so make sure you're being aware of what you're doing there. So thankfully we're privileged enough to have our own stand here, which I know some of you might not have. So if you're washing this on a triangle or even up against a wall, you can still get a good job done. We're able to spin the tires and then spin and clean and spin and clean to make sure we have all the mud off. What you'll want to do if you don't have this luxury is just roll your bike forward a few feet, wash, roll your bike forward, just to kind of get to the next spot of your wheels. We've washed most of the mud off. I would say 95% of the mud is off this portion of the bike. What I want to show you guys here is that if you don't turn your bike on its side and wash underneath, what you miss every time. By every time I mean when there's sticky dirt. Obviously if you're in silty sand, it just falling off may not be necessary, but if you're in dirt that sticks, here's what you miss every single time. All right, so you're gonna take your stand over here. A lot of people lean their bikes on their grip, which you could get away with it, but you take the chance of tearing the end of your grip, or if you've got grease on your stand, you're now getting that on your grip. And I know a lot of people are running these white grips these days, which is crazy to me, but a nice place to do it is just grab here, turn your bars, and then you can kind of kick and adjust your stand as you're coming down, and then you lay it right on this triple clamp here. So it's not touching the fork leg, it's purely just on the triple clamp. If you're on a two-stroke and your bike isn't fuel injected, make sure you're turning that gas off. That way you're not leaking gas, and some of you guys run expensive gas, you could waste 20 bucks on accident. You don't want to waste 20 bucks, man, that's dinner. So this is what you miss every time you don't turn your bike on its side and wash it. So we're gonna get all this stuff off so we can get after the actual clean. All right, this looks pretty cool. Our Erase Products foam sprayer coming in clutch. So I've got both my brush and my Brillo pad, SOS pad here. I'm gonna show you how well this takes off the dirt and grime. This bike obviously hasn't been washed from underneath in a really long time, so we're gonna clean it up a little bit. Give it a little elbow grease. The more you give it, the better. If you see the pros frames on their bikes and you're like, wow, this is crazy, how nice their engines and frames look. It's because they got mechanics that are super dedicated to making their stuff look great, and they spend a lot of time doing this. There's some hard to reach areas that you can get when the bike's on its side. One of these is under the fork leg here where your clicker adjustments are. Newer bikes at least have caps that go in there, but for those that don't, spray that out real good. Up in your linkage here, that kind of gets some dirt gunked up, and then obviously inside your swing arm. Those are a couple places that it's a little easier to get when the bike's on its side. I encourage all my riders to wash their own bikes, and the reason for this is it gives you bike awareness. For instance, right here, I'm washing the bike, something I probably never would have seen and the mechanic never would have seen if he wouldn't have laid it over. And we got a little oil leak coming from here, which is likely the counter shaft seal is bad. But I wouldn't have known that. I would have had a leak coming out of the bottom of the engine and not really noticed if I wasn't paying attention and washing my bike thoroughly. So it's very important for all you riders out there to pay attention to the bolts and the minor leaks and things that could possibly happen while you're washing the bike. There's actually another hole that I didn't mention that you may want to cover up if you're planning on racing the next moto and you don't want your filter wet. It's down here at the bottom of the air box. Most bikes have that hole there. If you're putting the bike on its side, in between motos or in between trail rides, whatever you're doing, and you don't want the filter to get wet, you got to make sure that you cover that up before you get the bike wet. Spend some time getting all that mud caked out from there. Another place is in your chain guide here. A lot of times mud will get in there and wear your chain down and stuff like that. So the nooks and crannies is what you want to pay attention to the first couple times that you lay the bike over on the side and wash it like this. Then going from there, you'll have it dialed in and it'll be a much quicker process. You got the bottom of your radiators here. Pet peeve of mine is that looking real grimy like it does. I've already scrubbed a little right here. You put a little elbow grease into this, you can have this literally back to brand new. I mean, look at the comparison, that versus that. So if you get a bike that's used, you spend some time on it, you can really bring it back to life. We've got the bottom all cleaned up how we'd like it. We're gonna move to the full soap up the whole bike, scrub with a soft brush, maybe touch up some spots with SOS pad, and get spick and span. All right, we've got our race product on there, their foam spray, which works fantastic. We're gonna let this sit for 3 to 5 minutes. We've got a little moisture in the air. You don't want to let it dry on there, but you want to let it soak in and kind of break down all those bad spots. So, in that meantime, you got to find something to do. Is that a helicopter? Woo! Wow. All right, well, that was cool. We're back to washing bikes, I guess. I would give it a 90% on my wash scale, but we wanted to go ahead and move to part 3 for you guys. We're gonna take this bike in the shop, make sure we get it dried off properly, and get lubricants in all the right places. Phase 3, we're gonna take our air hose, which you're super privileged to have. If you don't have an air hose, you can take a big, huge, deep breath in and blow super hard into these spaces that I'm gonna show you. See? Same thing. You want to go check in and spray in all the nooks and crannies that you can find. Really, all the moving joints that are external. You kind of want to get the water out of there so nothing corrodes. We have well water here that corrodes, so we have to really kind of spray everything down to make sure nothing rusts or gets super, what do you call it, grungy. Grungy, you don't want it to get grungy. The bike's wet, the filter got wet because we didn't cover those holes because we're not going to ride it immediately. So make sure that you're not starting your bike with the filter wet and sucking that water through the carb or fuel injection system. You don't want that.
Okay.
Going up my nose. Now it's time to lube up the bike. We've got chain lube, we've got joint lube. I just get the, the main moving parts that I think that need attention. The foot pegs and also the Kickstarter on a lot of bikes will get bound up if you don't keep lube on the pivot point of that. Lube in the chain, first things first, you want to lube on the bottom so you're not getting excess spray on your swing arm and your wheel. And you always want to roll the tire forward. And the reason for that is the MasterLink is set up to be able to roll forward without hitting anything in the chain guide and unclipping. So the opening is to the back, that way when it's spinning through there, the closed part is hitting where the chain guide is, and if there's any gunk or rock in there, it doesn't hit that and take your MasterLink off, leading to chain failure. wipe the excess water that I missed spraying off. A lot of times I won't spend a whole lot of time on the plastics and I'll get that afterwards. And there's also plenty of companies out there, including Erase Products, that have a plastic detailer that you can rub on to make your plastic shiny and also restore them a little bit. All right guys, our bike's clean. We did burnouts by helicopters. It was really an eventful wash today. So if you like this and you want to see some more videos like this, make sure you let us know in the comments below. We have more videos over this way. Thanks to our Patreons, you guys can become one down here.